Hi, I'm Dave Koch. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're looking at staging your Airbnb for maximum impact. I'm going to bring up a lot of different things that you can do and maybe a couple of things you shouldn't be doing. But the bottom line that you need to know is no matter how good the photographer, if you're presented with a messy room, you can't unmess it. Well, you can. There are AI and Photoshop ways to take the mess out. But trust me, it's going to cost you a lot less and look a lot better if you just go into the whole thing with the right mindset and with the idea that you're going to make your Airbnb as best as you possibly can and as presentable as you possibly can. On top of which, then when people come to your Airbnb, you leave that staging there, you leave it set up like that, and people are going to be extremely happy with the property that they get because it's going to be just like they saw in the pictures. And that's the bottom line. And you don't want to present your property as something that it's not. So to me, be realistic, show it properly, but you can dress it up with a few minor things and really make it sing. And that's what we're going to discuss today. As we discussed in episode 1, and I keep reiterating, people look with their eyes on Airbnb. They don't read, they scroll. So you need to have high attention getting images. And the best way to do that is to not only have a good photographer, but to have an extremely presentable location. The first thing that you have to do to make the property sing and really stand out is to not clutter. Have all that clutter removed. Have just the basic lines and form of the location tell the story, because that's what people are looking for. They're looking for simplicity. They want to see themselves fit in. And another thing that I've found is they don't want to see things that bring them down. They don't, especially on a vacation Airbnb, you don't want to see trash cans. You don't want to see dishwashers. You don't want to be reminded of the mundane and the things that are anti-vacation. You want to see you want to create a fantasy world. And that's what we need to work together to do with your Airbnb. A real quick observation. I know in earlier videos I've talked about how we'll spend 2 to 4 hours on a location, and you may say, well, why that much time? It's because little things you may not notice, things that either you're used to or that you just pass by, those can turn out to be glaring problems in your photography. So you don't just set up a camera, make sure the lights are good, take the picture, move on. You have to look at each picture and really go through it and find any glaring problems. What are problems? A pen that's on the table. That could easily be photoshopped out, but it's something that detracts from a nice clean image. To me, trash cans, I don't like trash cans, things like that. One of my personal pet peeves is paper towels. The problem with paper towels is, well, one, they say, hey, you're going to have to clean this place up. But besides that, they're white, and that means they're going to be about the brightest thing in the room. Do you want your potential renters to be looking at the paper towels or looking at the room? So I look at all kinds of things like that, things that are going to draw the eye, things that are glaring mistakes, things that don't belong, and I take them out. And that's really a lot of what my job is, and call it staging, call it prepping, call it what you want. That's something that you just learn with experience and that you do. You, as I said, can fix some of these things in Photoshop too, but it's always better to do it at the shoot. So that's one of the things I'd say. Make sure that first impression is a good impression. Very much related is the idea that the camera sees everything. It is very or can be very unforgiving. And it's not just what's in the shot, it's the lighting, and it's what you see in the background, in the foreground, and how the focus lays out everything. And this is all something, I take into consideration when I'm shooting, and it plays out in the final images themselves. And to me, this is why staging matters so much, because you've got that one chance to make a beautiful image. And if you rush through it, you're going to make mistakes. So I take my time and I make sure that everything that shows matters to that image. As I said, declutter, declutter, declutter. And then when you're done, declutter again. Have somebody who doesn't even live there or know it, come through and tell you, get rid of that and that too, because they're distractions. Unless having a gourmet kitchen is important to the people you're renting to, unless that's part of the amenities that you're selling, don't leave a thing of knives on the counter. Coffee, I know, is something a lot of people like to, if you've got a good fancy coffee maker, if you've got, an espresso maker or something, yeah, that's worth featuring. But if it's a Mr. Coffee, let's put it under the sink and not show it, because I don't think that really goes to helping sell the property as much as it goes to clutter and something else for the eye to settle on. Let's show the fantasy, not the everyday reality. And let's remove anything that distracts, because we want to show a pristine, fantasy, really. The more things you see in an image, the less impact each is going to have. And we don't want to be dividing up people's interest. Simple, you into Ernest Hemingway? Simple declarative sentences. That's what we should be shooting. Just simple declarative shots. Everything needs to be clean. Your windows need to be clean. I need to see out them, and I need to see what your views are. Unless your views suck, and even then, I need to see out your windows. Everything needs to be clean and spotless. The granite needs to sparkle. If you've got brushed aluminum fixtures, those cannot have fingerprints or smudges on them. Think about what you would think if you were looking at a possible rental and you saw fingerprint smudges on the refrigerator. Right on to the next one. So yeah, make the place presentable. If you have a maid service, pay them double or what. I don't know how all that works, but do a deep clean before I come, because you want everything to just be pristine and perfect. Let's talk about lighting and ambience. I typically will shoot with the lights off, but if there are important lights in a room or important fixtures, candelabras, or the big lights, I may turn those on and shoot those. Make sure that all the light bulbs everywhere work. And I know this is a little deep in the weeds, but there are essentially two colors of lights. And this is one of the reasons I turn lights off when I shoot. But there are orange lights and blue lights. And the lights look orange because they're mixing with daylight. And that doesn't mix. They're two different colors. Color temperatures is the technical term for it. I use flash, and I will light each room with flash, because the flash is matched to that outdoor light. And you can't tell that it's being lit because the colors match. I will do my best to negate that color difference if I'm turning on special, important lighting fixtures. But by and large, especially if you're shooting during the day, ask yourself, do people turn on lights during the day? No, they don't. So having lights on is kind of an unnatural way to look at a room. If you have can lights that come straight down from the ceiling, those really provide a gaudy light source. It's horror film lighting, and I will turn those off every minute of the day because they just look horrible. You need to have lighting that comes in from the sides, like natural window lighting like you see here. And that's the lighting that I do. But if I need to turn on a light and it doesn't work, if the bulb is burnt out, or if you have, say, 5 lights over the mirror in the bathroom and one of them's burnt out, that's not going to look good on you. So make sure all your lights match and that they all work. And if you can, do me the favor and make them all daylight or 5600 or blue. Those are, I think, the common terms that we use for those lights. If you have a good eye, you can come in and do a lot of staging, or you may want to hire an interior decorator or a stager to come in and do a little bit of staging too. You'd be amazed what little things like throwing a little throw over a couch does to a living room, and little things that make it look lived in and yet comfy and yet professional and appealing. And just like I harp on hiring a professional photographer, hire a professional stager. If you're at the very high end of things like this, have someone like that come in and do the final touches. I think things like bowls of fruit are wonderful for adding color to a room. Flowers always are a wonderful thing. From small little flower bowls or even a single orchid in a bathroom to a big set that you put on a dining room table. I will sometimes move them from room to room too, so that they get multiple uses. And just so that I do offer additional staging when I shoot an Airbnb. I will take a few place settings of dining room plates and wine glasses and things like that. I'll set up charcuterie boards. I will bring flowers, anything like that. It's part of what I do to plus your Airbnb. It's not included with the base photography fee. Obviously, staging costs me time and money, so I'm going to charge for it. But it is something that I can do to a limited level to help your Airbnb stand out. The bottom line is we should be making your Airbnb look like a magazine feature, and dare I say it, architectural digest, not like a hotel. That's where you're going to stand out from a hotel. While a hotel may be beautiful and have wonderful amenities, they're all very cookie cutter. Where you can really stand out is your individuality and your personality and what you put into your Airbnb. And that's what I mean when I say make it look like a magazine feature. Buy a copy of Architectural Digest and look through it and look at what you see. And you'll see light streaming through windows. You'll see flowers. You'll see shots that are very tight, that show little scenes, not super wide shots that show the whole room. And that's really, at least my philosophy of shooting Airbnb, and that's what I'm going for. So when you're getting ready for Airbnb photography, make a checklist of the things that are important to you. I have my own Airbnb checklist that I've made, and there's a link down in the description below. But that's very wide-ranging and not specific to you. Take that, start with that, add things that are important to you or that fit in with your property. Budget your time properly. If you can, have the place completely gone over the day before I get there rather than the day I do get there. There's nothing worse than me getting to a property and I'm having to work around cleaners or painters or something like that. And I think, and I hope you understand, that if I'm doing that, if I'm working around other people trying to do their jobs, I'm not going to be able to do my best job. And it's quite possible we're going to miss shots because either parts of the place weren't ready or they just don't look as good as they possibly can, or the job just doesn't get done in time. I clear out my time for you. When I tell you I'm going to be there at 10 and I'm going to be there till 2, I'm not on the phone answering phone calls. I'm not texting people. I'm not doing other things. I am there 100%, 110% focused on your property. And I would hope that when I get there, that property is 110% ready for me to do that. If it's not, it's unfair to both of us. It really is. Once I'm there, I am probably going to move things. Sometimes things just don't work out for the camera as well as you think they will, or as they do in your eye. And that's just something that I'm not even going to see until I'm looking through the camera at the shot. And sometimes it's as little as just moving a couch just a little bit so it's in the shot or not in the shot or something like that. And that has no bearing on staging or anything like that. That's just cleaning up shots and taking care of it. But I am going to do my best to make those final adjustments that make every little shot work 100% of the time. So the bottom line is, great photos begin with getting a good photographer. But the most important thing is incredible staging, having your property ready and set and representing the clients and the look that you want. It's not about getting expensive furniture. It's not about adding a hot tub or any of that, as much as it is about just fine-tuning what you have. You may find a throw blanket here, flowers there. Little inexpensive touches like that go a long way to taking your property from ordinary to wow. And just be aware and open to things like that. As I said, if you need a checklist to make sure that you're taking care of everything, there's a link down in the description below that has my ideas of what you need to do. Feel free to add to it. I hope this has helped you prepare for your next photo shoot, and I hope it's given you a lot of ideas to really up your game and plus your listing. I'm Dave Koch. Thank you so much for watching, and may your next shoot be your best shoot.